What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hysteria Hour, and welcome to The Buzz. I am your host, as always, Alex, and I am joined this week by the host of Paranormal Activities, Ben Axe. How you doing, mate?
Hey, I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I've come off a week of feeling like shit, but we're on the mend, and
That's
we're
good.
here. You know, it's only been about 4 months since the last Hysteria Hour.
Is that all? Oh man, I thought we just had one like 2 days ago. What are you talking about?
You know what they say, leave them wanting more.
That's right.
Or none at all.
There you go. Well, hey, I appreciate you having me on the show, man. I'm really excited. I love this idea of this show, and to be on this episode about aliens, I am pumped to talk about it because I could honestly talk about aliens and UFOs pretty much all day. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, as you can see, scrolling along the bottom on the ticker, it does say if you have got an opinion on something, or maybe you've got a fact that you want to bring, or maybe a sighting that you've had yourself, make sure you put it in the comments below on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Facebook. They'll appear on screen, and we'll discuss them, we'll go through them, and maybe you can have a bit of a back and forth interaction with both of us during this episode. But today's episode of Hysteria Hour, coming off the back of a kind of sinister one when we were talking about Princess Diana's death and whether that was a accident or whether it was something a little bit more sinister. We're talking something a bit more broad. The universe is a huge, huge place. If you think about it, there's the Earth that 7 billion people live on, with a ton of different species of animals, including cats. There's just popped above Ben's head.
She's hanging out. She likes aliens.
If you think that, take that and then think we're part of a solar system with 8 different other planets. And yes, I am including Pluto. Pluto is still a planet to me, god damn it.
Damn right.
We all revolve.
Pluto forever.
We all revolve around the sun, which resides in one galaxy, inside one Milky Way, which is parts of different Milky Ways, part of one universe, which we aren't entirely sure is the only universe, that is apparently still expanding.
Yeah, and I don't understand what that really means. They always say that it's expanding. I don't know what that means though. Like, what is it like? Just like the planets are moving away from everything else, or is it creating new mass or new stuff? I don't know what expanding means.
So I guess the way they kind of explain it is the Big Bang really was a load of things in space colliding together and combining, making a mass explosion, which is apparently still rippling to this day.
Okay.
Which the explosion itself is still creating more things on the edge of the universe, which obviously in our lifetime we'll never know about.
Sure.
Because I mean, we as humans have apparently been to the moon. That could be another conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, I did my senior project on that actually when I was in high school. My senior project was proving that the moon landing did happen. You know, and it was pretty fun. It caused some stir in the classroom. So absolutely, that could be a whole new episode.
But if you look carefully, there's strings. We've sent satellites into orbit to orbit different planets. We've sent the Mars rover to land on Mars and search that area. But the question really is, are we really alone? Can we be the only planet with life that's inhabited?
Yeah, in my opinion, there's no way. Like you already said, Earth is one planet, and we know that, as far as we know, an infinite amount of planets exist. So what would make Earth so special? I mean, space is limitless. We find new planets pretty much all of the time. We have 8 others just in our solar system alone, revolving around our one sun. And we know of each dot you see in the sky each night is another sun with other planets that we don't even know about going around them. So what would make our one little existence so special compared to the limitless amount of other planets and stars doing the exact same thing? There is no way that we are alone in the universe? If so, that's pretty disappointing and kind of depressing if you think about it.
Well, yeah, if you think, yeah, because 7 billion people, and I mean, it's a huge number, a massive number. Combine that with the amount of animals and life that's on land and in the sea, there is tons and tons of different species around. So surely, if our tiny planet compared to the other planets that are in our solar system can be inhabitable, the other ones should have some form of life on them at least.
Sure. Absolutely. And the thing with life that we, as far as we know it, it is kind of sensitive. It's hard to get the elements right. You have to have the right temperature, which Earth has. You have to be protected from the sun, which Earth has, and all those other things that have to really come into play. The big thing being water. As far as we know, life needs water to live and survive and grow. Whether you're a plant, whether you're an animal, whether you're a human. But what's to say that other planets aren't just like ours? And there's actually a moon that revolves around Jupiter. I think it's Titan. I could be wrong, but there is a moon that they believe there could be an ocean of animals on that moon because they have evidence that the ice is covering the planet or the moon. But under that, they believe that there's actually liquid water because of how the cracks expand and then retract, expand and retract throughout as it spins around Jupiter. And so that leads them to believe that there's water down there freezing and unfreezing, which could mean there's a whole ocean of life on this one moon. That's just in our solar system. So if they can get it that right in the solar system, then there's no reason that life is not expanding and probably flourishing elsewhere on planets that are similar to Earth.
Yeah, and within the billions of years that Earth has been around, I mean, we've seen countless things as human beings because we've lived through most of this. Because I'm not going to sit here and say humans have inhabited Earth continuously all the way through, because we're going to end up into a different story of whether humans came from animals or whether we just born onto this planet.
Right.
But we've lived through Ice Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, going through to Victoria times, Tudor times, and we've seen all these different things. We've seen species of animals that have died out and that are no longer with us, they're extinct. So surely, if those animals that can just slowly pass away over time on other planets, maybe back in the day there were aliens that were around on certain planets that we never got to see because they just died out.
Sure. I mean, absolutely, that could be. I mean, I kind of feel like it's the Star Trek rules when it comes to aliens. Like, there's more than just one race. If we talk about aliens coming to Earth and stuff, there's probably, because of the size that space is, there's probably multiple different races of aliens, and they're all in a different timeline of their evolution. So I would imagine that there's probably going to be some planets that have very evolved species that can probably travel to different planets and stuff like that. Then you have planets like Earth where we're just now figuring that out. And then there's probably planets that are less evolved. I would say intelligent, but less evolved than us. And then there's probably planets that just have what they would classify as unintelligent life, like bacteria and stuff like that. That's just how I would assume it would work. So I try to take out the paranormal aspect of it and the magic and powers or whatever out of it. And just realistically, on Earth, life can pretty much grow anywhere, even Antarctica, where it's extreme weather conditions. So I'd imagine other planets that are in that same zone of life could exist. If, like they say in Jurassic Park, if life can exist, it will exist. Life will find a way. And there's and that's kind of how I feel about the universe. There's probably multiple planets with different stages of life.
Yeah, because the whole point of us as human races, we've adapted to continue living through different elements and different places. I mean, the world as a whole has got so many different climates, but every human being has a different way to cope with those climates.
Sure.
So surely there's got to be, if our bodies and our DNA and things like that can do that, then surely there's something else out there that can do that for their own home planet or home area, shall we say.
Nope, absolutely. And with that, here's a kind of a question for you, I guess. You kind of talked about the different eras of our existence already. Like these past 100 years, we have really jumped ship when it comes to technology. Even from when I was born in 1987, we have come so far with technology. And there are some rumors out there, some conspiracies out there that we've not only have made contact with aliens, but they're actually assisting humans with our technology and are improving our race. Could that be a thing? Ancient aliens and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, it's one theory because it's one of the theories that we'll talk about later on. It's one of the sightings or the so-called alien sightings that are classed as a theory. But yeah, I do agree that it seems weird that we've rapidly expanded so quickly with technology and how we figured out things from late 19th century straight to now present day. Think how things have changed so quickly and how someone's mind has just been able to go, no, that's how that should work, and then bang, it's everywhere. It seems very strange.
Like we just invented flight. Like what? I think when did the Wright brothers learn to fly? Like 1912 or something along those lines is when they started flying in planes. So from like the early 1900s to 1969, we went from not even knowing how to fly to literally going to the moon. As they say, it could be a whole new conspiracy, but we went from learning to fly to literally landing on the moon in like 70 years, less than. Like, and then but we've been around for thousands and thousands of years before that as a human race. So how did that happen so quickly that the minds just started to work? Like we just became all of a sudden smart, or was there other influences? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we'll go on to one of the so-called sightings of both aliens and UFOs, and this is a conspiracy in itself. The pyramids on the Earth. Obviously, the most famous ones are the ones that are in Egypt. They're the ones that were built for the pharaohs that had passed away, so that they could be entombed in them low down in the ground. However, there is loads of pyramids around the world that you wouldn't know about because they're now underwater. They were built before the sea levels rose.
Sure.
Some claim that pyramids were built by aliens or by higher beings, should we say, as the human species at that point were not capable of being able to produce something so massive on such a huge level of construction as well. And with the Egyptian pyramids being at 1440 BC, think how long ago that was compared to now we're only just getting to that point where we're throwing skyscrapers up and things like that.
Sure.
These massive structures have just been thrown up by humans by themselves in such a short period of time, in a lifetime, so that they could just bury someone underneath it.
Yeah, that's like a lot of work just to bury dead people. I never understood those kind of tombs. But yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that we don't know. Like today's society, we have to use all of these tools to build a regular building. But we had these guys back however long ago, over 1,000 years ago, building this stuff with just, handmade hammers and stuff like that. What I've always liked about the pyramids is I never really put much thought into the alien aspect of it. It's slave labor, that kind of stuff. And just because we don't know how they did it doesn't make it automatically aliens. But the interesting thing with that is multiple civilizations like the Mayans and the Egyptians, all on different continents, all have the same shape. They're not going to know each other because they were on different continents, but they still built the stuff the same way and very similar. And that's where it's like, well, how did they... That's where the alien aspect. Well, maybe the alien showed them both, But like that's what's kind of intriguing about that is why did all these different civilizations build the same structured buildings without knowing each other? How does that make any sense?
Yeah, because I mean, when was it that Christopher Columbus apparently found America?
17
Yeah,
or 15,
but
whatever it was.
But all these buildings are already built exactly the same as what they were where he was.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just what's just like, that's where it's really interesting. So not only did they all figure out how to build these massive structures with no technology that we're aware of, but they're all so similar in their foundations and their structures and their designs, but they don't know each other. That would be like, me and my neighbor never seeing each other, building the exact same, like, patio. Like, it makes no sense. You'd have different opinions, different ways of doing things, and nothing would be the same unless you're building tombstones, apparently.
Yeah, so one of the big reports and one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this episode was because back in June, there was a statement released by the US. It came straight from the Pentagon that there'd been 144 reported UFO sites that can't be fully explained since 2004. These sightings were not made by public. These sightings were made by the US military, so the Naval, the Air Force, and ground troops altogether. Only one out of the 144 has been fully explained. The rest of them, they have no entire explanation as to where they came from or what it was that they saw.
Yep, and that's really interesting. And only in 2020 could they announce that the other UFOs, and nobody gives a shit. Like, that's 1 year where they could do that kind of stuff and nobody's going to panic. They're like, "Oh, COVID's happening. Let's just slip that in and see what happens." Yeah, it is really interesting. You think about the military and stuff. Like, they see a lot of stuff. And I think you mentioned 2004. I actually listened to a podcast a while ago where they played the audio tapes of one of the sightings in 2004. It was from the Navy, and it's called like something hit skip Kimball or something like that is what they coded it in the Navy. But they were flying and they just saw this thing, zipping around, going around them, going above them, going under them, and flying. Like, they can't explain how it moves. They were freaking out. There's definitely something out there. Like, UFOs don't have to be aliens necessarily. They're unidentified flying objects. But the way that these ships are moving, they can't be from another country. They can't be from China or Russia because nobody has that technology to move as fast as they're moving. Like, these things are breaking sound barrier without making any kind of sound. Like, as far as we know, that's not possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the one that you talk about is the most famous one because I think CBS did a massive documentary on it where they got two former US Navy members to come and explain what they saw because they were the two that were flying the jets at the time, and they said that it was a white tic tac shaped object that just flew by the side of them and then flew down into the sea at just the speed of sound, then came back up, flew straight up, and then disappeared off the radar, and they had no idea where it had gone.
Yep, that's the one, absolutely. And there's been several sightings like that. I mean, you're in the ocean, and the cool thing about the ocean is you can see everything. You can see for a very far distance. So, if you're watching that sky, you're probably going to see something that's can't be explained. And in that situation, they just see the shit going back and forth, flying around them, kind of mocking them, it kind of seemed like. And that's definitely something. And it's definitely not going to be another country's aircraft, screwing with the U.S. Navy. That's not going to happen either, So.
Yeah, especially when they said that it wasn't big enough for a human being to fit inside of this thing. So if this thing's flying by the side of a plane, and I mean, it's a US Air Force plane, it's going to be moving at some distance.
An F-16 or something. Yep, absolutely.
If it's flying past you at that space, you've got to be thinking, is it gathering information?
I mean, I would assume that would be the idea, but I do have to say this though: you got to kind of look at everything. And you mentioned that human couldn't fit inside of it, but drones have been taken off. Could it have been a drone? And drones can probably move in ways that human occupied aircrafts can't. They can do more zigzags and stuff like that. Could it have been a drone if it was that? I doubt it, but.
There's all possibilities of it, and I mean, in this show we don't rule anything out because the whole point of it is Hysteria Hour. We talk about everything and all possibilities from all different angles, and it is not to come up with a conclusion. This show is to open people's minds and basically hope that people take something from it and go, actually, there's a possibility of that, and they get thinking, and maybe they'll do their own research and they'll come back to us and be like, oh my god, I found out all this information, and that'd be great.
Sure.
But with how, like we were talking earlier about how quick our technology has gone from the early 1900s to now, drones have really only come around and accessible for public.
Right.
What in the last 5 years, maybe?
Oh, sure. Like, like the good ones. I think they've been around. They've been around for a little while, but like they were like the shitty toys and stuff. But like the good hardcore ones, yeah, like recently, I'd say like within the last 5 to 6 years for sure.
And we've only ever really made one plane that's ever broken the sound barrier, which was the Concorde.
And that's decommissioned, isn't it now? Like they got rid of that one.
Yeah, because they said that that's too unsafe to use. So can you imagine having a drone that's not human size, flying at the speed of sound? If you break the sound barrier with something that's large, you're going to hear a massive crash. If you break the sound barrier with something that's very small, it's going to be like a popping inside your ears, like when like when you're on the airplane, you go too high, and you feel your ears pop.
Sure.
It's going to be like that, but times 1,000, because it's just going to ping straight past you.
It sounds painful.
Let's say you might not be hearing anything ever again.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that one really intrigued me, and it intrigued me that they allowed these two people to come out and speak about it so openly, because there was no hardcore evidence of it. It was just two people's accounts.
Sure. But they were like credible people, and then along with all the other sightings that other Navy people have had and Air Force people have had, when you put everything together, clearly there's something going on. And yeah.
It always seems to be America, though, and this is why you guys have got Area 51.
Yeah, we do. Area 51. Let me honest about Area 51 is I've never really put much stock in Area 51. It was like in the 1930s or 40s, I think, and that was when they were probably trying a lot of stuff. And I think it was a crash site, and like a dude found like a bunch of debris over his farmland, and that's what kind of turned into the spacecraft that landed. And they claimed it as a balloon, like a weather balloon. Well, clearly it wasn't a weather balloon. If I was a betting man, I believe that Area 51 was not aliens at the time, but it was a unique spacecraft that the military was building, for the war. They didn't want to get it out yet because it was all top secret. And that's how it kind of turned into aliens. But I do have something kind of cool to talk about that. I live right next to an Air Force base called Wright Pat Air Force Base, where I had to go to all the time for work. And one of the cool things about Area 51 was it's very heavily rumored that it was a spacecraft that crashed, and they brought it to Wright Pat here in Ohio. It's like, hell yes, that's kind of my claim to fame. And also, here's where I'm going to get tagged by the FBI. But if I was also a betting man, Area 50 or Wright Pat has two different areas, A and B. And when you go into Area B, security's kind of chill. I mean, you have to show your ID, but they're like, yeah, whatever, cool. They have their guns, but they're like, yeah, you're good, go on. They're very kind of lax. When you go to Area A, they're hardcore. Like that's where they like pointing guns at you and shit. So if I was a betting man, they have aliens at that part at Wright Pat Air Force Base. That's just.
And we're not saying go investigate.
No, don't investigate and don't say I sent you. But if I was a bet man, if aliens, because there's been a few different cases where Wright Pat has popped up, because there was an alien sighting, I think in Virginia, and they claimed, and I just kind of came across it not too long ago, but I was reading about it, and then Wright Pat popped up again, and it was believed that they brought the ship to the Wright Pat because it's such a big Air Force base. I'm like, holy shit, we got aliens right down the road, apparently. There's multiple cases of different alien sightings from the past 100 years, or almost 100 years, I guess, that are just going to Wright Pat. Area A is where the party is. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so the one that you brought up about the weather balloon that crashed in the farmland is the most famous one of all time, I believe, anyway. It's been used in the film Thor. Thor's hammer landing in the desert is the exact same place as the so-called crash for the hot air balloon.
I didn't know that.
It's called the Roswell incident because it's in Roswell, New Mexico. It happened in 1947 in June, 30 minutes outside of Roswell. The US Air Force announces that they've captured a flying saucer that has crashed in farmland. Hours later, the statement was redacted and the crash was claimed to have been a misunderstanding and just a hot air balloon that had crashed. In 1978, however, a former Army officer, Jesse Marshall, claimed that the hot air balloon story had just been made as a cover-up and that what they'd actually found was parts of a flying saucer.
Yep, there you go. And I kind of jumped the gun, I guess, with that. But yeah, I definitely believe it wasn't a hot air balloon or weather balloon, whatever they said it was, because that's just silly. You know, you're not going to find debris like that with a balloon. But I think it's just as believable that it was a new spacecraft that they were not a new aircraft that they were trying to invent because of, you know, the war and stuff like that, and they didn't want to get out top secret. It could be an alien, but it could also have been that, and they set a weather balloon just to cover that up, because I'm sure this plane that they were creating had, you know, stuff that they didn't want at the time would be Germany or Russia to know about. Either way,
Yeah,
I think both are believable, because I definitely believe in aliens, but it could also have been that they were just covering up a top secret thing. But that being said, if the farmer saw a UFO and, like, you know, was circular and stuff like that, maybe it very well could be.
well, it's crazy how Area 51 could have been born just off that one incident taking place. And this is the whole thing now of nobody really knows, and obviously nobody's ever really going to know until the government releases any information about what actually happens at Area 51. If it is aliens or if it's more weaponized construction that they're doing for the US military and they just want it to be top secret.
Sure, absolutely. And, you know, as I used to be a background investigator, and I've actually, you know, interviewed folks who worked at that base, because I have had their file and stuff like that, and they really couldn't tell me anything. Like, even with, because I did like background security clearance stuff like that, and I'd ask questions of, I can't really talk about that. Well, I'm not asking about that, but you were there. I can't really say. It's like, okay. I mean, it says you're here, but whatever. They're just that and put in their brain that they can't talk about anything that goes on at Area 51, no matter what. Like, a lot of people don't even know where it's located. They're driven in on buses and stuff like that. Like, it is very heavily top secret, and it's, you know, it'd be top secret anyway if it was making weapons, you know, for our military. But to be that top secret, there's something going on there that we definitely don't know about, and it's probably aliens at this point in time. Like, you know, very easily could have transferred from just being weapons to, oh, here's an alien, let's throw them in there because it's so secure, and then it evolved into a top secret alien investigation base or something along those lines.
Well, we'll go into more of the sort of sightings, or the claiming sightings that there's been. One of the first ones that has been thrown around that was like, I think it's 15th, 16th century, 16th, I believe. In 1561 in Nuremberg, Germany, there was a claim that there was a galactic battle taking place on the outskirts of the city. Reports claim that a large triangular object was battling in the sky with lots of small circular metallic shaped objects. The triangle then was claimed to have crashed just outside the city grounds. Witnesses claim to have seen this happen, but no wreckage was ever found.
Damn, I did not hear about that one.
It makes you think. I know 1561 is hard because we're never going to be able to go back and be able to ask anybody who was there, and we're never going to be able to ask anybody whose great whatever grandparent was there at the time. But in 1561, if you've got to think about us as a human race, we weren't going to be able to know to clean that up so quickly and keep people away and be like, no, nothing's happened, there's nothing there. But if there's multiple people saying, oh, we've seen something crash just outside this city, and we can't find it, it does make you wonder.
Absolutely. You know, especially back then, I would imagine a lot of those guys are probably heavily religious, and to say they saw anything that didn't fit that, you know, they'd be laughed at, mocked. So for everybody to kind of come together and say we saw something, I would imagine they definitely saw something.
Yeah, and a lot of these big crashes and things took place in the 1940s around the World War time. During the World War, there was hundreds of photos that were taken by many of the bombers that was flying over the top of places that were basically doing breach and clear over like Nazi Germany and even over into Japan and things like that. They were taking photos of small metallic spheres and colourful balls that were travelling through the air that were not bomb shaped, that were above the planes or level with the planes that were dropping the bombs. These were then later referred to and are now known as a band as the Foo Fighters. These small objects that have been seen in these photos have never been explained, but they are the same small shape as what these US Navy people that went on CBS claim to have seen in the recent times.
Sure. That's really interesting. So, how, that 1940 something to now, the same exact equipment. I mean, if it was us, it would have evolved from the 1940s. So for it to be the same, that's interesting. Hard to explain that one for sure.
Well, the thing is, imagine if you're getting away with something for so long, you're not going to change tactic because you're getting away with it. So if they're able to send something like that and get under the radar and stay under wraps with everything, they aren't going to change that system. They aren't going to change what they're using because, well, it's working.
Sure. So what are they doing, do you think? Like with those, with those tools, like what's their goal or what's their end game? Why would they still be here in 1940 and then, be here in 1940, then still be here in 2014 or 2004? What's their goal?
Well, the main thing I think you can see from it is in 1940 there's a lot of sites and a lot of claimed crash sites because a lot of planes went down, obviously, and then there's the conspiracy that a lot of alien hovercrafts or things that were just monitoring the Earth got caught in the fire and was then brought down to Earth. They came probably around in the 1940s to see what we were doing, and we were in this mass war, and they were thinking, Jesus, well, maybe it's not something to get in part of. And then scroll back the years, we get to now, they come back to see what's happening. War's not really raging worldwide. I know there's small wars taking place in parts of the Earth, but sure, worldwide we're slightly more at peace than what we were in 1940s. So whether these small things are going around the war-torn areas just to see what's happening, see if it's inhabitable, maybe if they're wanting to make contact.
That's fair. I could buy into that. Do you think, let's say like somebody came out right now and was like, let's say who's the President Biden, or I'm not even sure who's your president right now. I should know that, but I
don't. Johnson.
So let's say like Biden and Johnson came in together. They were like, so they bring out some being. He looks, whatever. Hey, this is Joe. He's an alien. We made contact. You're just going down. Like, how would that go down? Like, could that happen in our lifetime, do you think? And would people panic, or like how would that go?
See, it could go. I feel like it'll go one of two ways, because I think as a human race, we've become more accepting of things. Like, you've only got to go back 30, 40 years, and you can see the difference. We're more a loving race. In some parts, there's some people that are still not accepting of certain things, but we're more accepting overall. However, I also think we're on just a bit of a knife edge at the moment, where if something like that was to happen, it could possibly just tip us over the edge
and freak out.
Yeah, and people like there's such a big thing around people being sensitive about things at the moment that if something like that were to happen, it can just snap and they start to question everything, and then they can't cope with it. They don't know what to do.
I mean, absolutely. Especially like, religion's still a big part of Earth. And I think aliens might, if their existence would kind of counter a lot of people's religious beliefs and that kind of stuff. So it would make everything question. But also, if aliens can get to Earth, that means they're going to be way more involved than us, because space is so big. Every planet is so far away. Even the next solar system over is so far away. To get to Earth from wherever they're from, it's going to take technology or ways that we just don't know or understand. So if they can get here, they're going to be more developed. And Could that possibly mean that they want Earth for their own? They want to kill us? Do they want to hang out with us? Like, what? Why would they come to Earth and hang out if they have the ability to? Would it be for domination? Would it be for peacemaking? Just to observe and study, like science? Like, what would, it could go either way. So that's where I think it kind of gets a little scary sometimes.
Yeah, one of the scariest things that actually took place recently is it's early, I think it's early or late 2010s. There was a plane that went missing above Thailand. I can't remember the exact number of what the plane was, but the wreckage of the plane was never found. It just went off the radar. It just disappeared, and the claim was that it had flown too high. The plane had frozen, and that's why it just went off the radar all of a sudden. It never crashed because where it went off the site, they never found it. However, they were able to retrieve the recording that was on the black box of that. And supposedly, and this has never been released to the public, but there's been many people that have supposedly heard this. The people that are on the plane are contacting the control tower, the place where they're going, saying they are not human. We don't know what they are. And then it's gone.
See, that sounds terrifying. Yeah, man. And there's one too. I don't know if you've heard of this. So there was a show called Coast to Coast that's still on in America. I don't know if it plays over there or not, but it used to be hosted by a guy named Art Bell, and people could call in, talk about ghosts, aliens, whatever. Like a live radio show. And I forget what year. It might have been 90. I think it was September 11th, 1997. A guy called in, freaking out. Like you could go to YouTube right now and listen to it. He called in. He's like, Art, I'm so and so. I don't have a lot of time. He sounded out of breath. He was yelling. He was crying. He was like, the aliens, they are here. I work for blah 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 blah. I work here. Here's my credentials, and they're here and they're working with the governments, and their plan is to divide us and put us in camps. And he was just like saying all of this stuff, like how the aliens are here and they're working with the government, and basically we're all effed. And as he was talking, his phone line died, and then the power went out at the station. So like if you're listening to the live radio, it goes out. And then they're on that, the emergency broadcast pops up, and then their backup power comes on, and he comes back, and he was like, well, that was really weird. And explain that, as the guy's talking, the power just goes dead in their building. And then about a week later, the guy called back saying, oh, that was just a prank. I was just pranking you. But they did a study on that second caller's voice, and how they can figure that kind of stuff out. They determined that the second caller, claiming to be the first caller, wasn't really the first caller. So it's pretty scary. Like if you listen to that tape, especially if it's dark and you're in your room by yourself, it's pretty creepy. And if that guy is legit, and he also said that they're interdimensional, which I thought was interesting. He said they didn't come down on flying saucers, but they're interdimensional, meaning they came here through dimension, I guess, which is another interesting take, because how everything is so far away in space, it would make sense if you could come a different way, which would be, I guess, through portals or something. I don't really know how that would work either, but
yeah, like a rift kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what this guy claimed before the power went out. And like he sounded like he's being chased as he was talking. It was pretty wild.
Well, there's the it's on the coast of California, isn't there? There's the tide that's underneath. It's like a big whirlpool that the turtles use, and they go through it because it's quicker than trying to swim themselves. If they get into it, it's kind of like going on an escalator instead of walking up the stairs. You step onto it and it just shoots you through. To be able to do that, but from millions and millions of years away, it seems strange, but there must be if you do it, if you're doing a rift, say you're traveling by dimension, you must not be able to cross in between that area, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like wormhole kind of thing, and wormholes are pretty much accepted. They've never been proven, but they're generally accepted to exist, in the science world. And, if you watch the movie, I forget what the movie's called now, Inception, the one with Matthew McConaughey when he goes to space, they basically explain a wormhole as take a piece of paper, that's the space, you fold it, and that little area in between the two holes connect, and that'd be a wormhole in a simple form. And so if you figure that out and then it'll be a lot easier for them to travel here, and that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a lot easier for us to explain because as we know at the moment, we can travel at the speed of sound, but we can't travel at the speed of light, which is what you would need to be able to get to the very far planets.
But
yeah,
even,
you can. I don't even think we could get to Mars and back. We wouldn't be able to get back to Mars from Mars in one lifetime. If you went to Mars, that'd be it. That'd be your life. You're just traveling there.
right, like we can get you there, we can't get you back because I mean that's just the next planet over. So it's just like if that's impossible to come back from, like a lot of resources, and that's just as far as we know though. So that's what's with aliens. Just because we can't do it, just because we haven't figured out the speed of light or even faster or intergalactic travel, doesn't mean that they haven't figured it out. And that's why I say, even with water, as far as we know, you need water to exist, but that might not be the case elsewhere. So we just don't know what's going on with aliens, and they, if they can come to Earth, then they know a lot more than we do for sure.
Yeah. Well, the main thing that we take away from aliens and from these sightings is that no one has ever actually specifically said what they think an alien looks like. Now, we've had film and TV show depictions, and we've got different types of aliens that we know of. You've got movies like Alien, Predator, Cloverfield, Independence Day, these horror kind of aliens that come to Earth, and they don't speak English. They just are here to kill, kind of like a wild animal. But then you have the opposite of things when you have things like Paul, E.T., they can communicate, they know how to speak English, or they have a device that's able to help them communicate with us, and they're friendly. So this really is a question of what's your theory? Do you think, like I know you've said already that you think there's millions of different species of them. Do you think they'll be able to communicate with us? Do you think it'll be one of those things where it's a different language, we have no idea how we're going to be able to communicate with them?
Sure, I think it would be that one. I mean, there'd be no reason to believe they can speak English unless they've been here for a while, studied us, and figured it out. If they just show up, I mean, why would they know English? But I'm sure they'd have their own language. So it would be, just like even on Earth, if I would go over to Asia, I can't speak, I can't even speak Spanish, and they're right south of us. So even on Earth, there's a language barrier. So I would imagine if aliens came down, there'd be no reason unless they already studied us, they could speak English. So we'd have to figure that out. For sure. Yep, absolutely.
And I mean, if we go right back, the very first kind of depictions of aliens was the tall, green, kind of round-headed, big, black-eyed kind of things, kind of like E.T., but just green.
Yeah.
That kind of theme has run through most of these movies and these films and these TV show things. Do you think it is just someone's idea that's just gone, no, this is what they look like? Or maybe there's a possibility they've gone, here's a flash of this is us.
Sure. And it could be, there's been several stories, and there's a lot of abduction stories. And like I've listened to podcasts and reading alien abductions and stuff like that. A lot of people do say that they're like gray skinned. It's like the grays is a popular color or a popular description of aliens. Multiple people from different situations have claimed that they were abducted and they saw like gray, gray skinned, short, kind of big eyes, kind of round head, like you already mentioned from other movies. So that is a pretty standard one. And I would say a lot of other movies like Independence Day and a few others, they make them just big, scary monsters just for the dramatic effect to keep people to jump in the theater. But I think just like a short, gray skinned, big eye alien character is a pretty common theme when it comes to alien abductions, which I always found interesting because why would they all claim that they look the same? The only reason being would be, well, they heard it somewhere else. They're just kind of copying that story. Or multiple people have seen a same, similar alien creatures and abductions and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I was going to say there's a lot of crossovers when it comes to zombies, because zombie films, the first zombie film came out this is what they are. They are undead humans that come back to life, and this is what they look like. But that's a lot easier to come up with that idea because, well, we know what a human is. We know what a dead human is. This is what they'd be like if they were reanimated.
Sure.
And that's kind of continued, and you've gone from having slow walking zombies that only eat brains to like Walking Dead zombies that just don't really do anything, to World War Z zombies that are absolutely mental and they'll run up walls and all sorts of crap.
Scary in World War Z. That would be a terrible apocalypse to live through.
So it's become the same with aliens as well. And I'm on the same board as you. I think that if aliens do exist, then there's got to be multiple different species of them. There's going to be, well, the same way that there is with humans, there's going to be the ones that are friendly, nice, and that would just live in peace. And then there's going to be the bad ones, the ones that you're going to kind of want to stay away from.
Sure. Absolutely. And if anything on Earth, you can kind of look at Earth as that guideline. There's multiple countries, multiple races, everything's different. Some people are nice, some people are mean. There's no reason to believe anything else would be different in the universe. Bad guys, good guys, smart guys, dumb guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone is different and everyone is unique. So there's always going to be that complex when it comes to aliens as well.
Sure. Absolutely. Like I said earlier, I think Star Trek is when it comes to TV and movies, I think Star Trek gets it right when it comes to the depictions of aliens. They all, like, each different race will be a little bit different than the last one. Some may have tentacles, some may have 2 arms, some may have 4 arms. It's just however they evolved, wherever they're at,
Yeah, and I always think about that when it comes to the 2 big ones that people talk about, Star Trek and Star Wars. When it comes to Star Wars, it's basically humans that live on different planets. And they have other aliens, but they are different humans that live on different planets. Whereas when it comes to Star Trek, they have just got that something a little bit different about them that makes them from that planet.
Sure. Yep. And plus you do with Star Trek. I mean, I've never actually seen the show or anything, but like, as far as I can tell, like, they don't really have like powers and stuff. It's just, they're an alien race and they evolved how their planet evolved them, and that's it. And, some are smart, some are crazy. I don't really know. I've never really seen the show, but it's just they're unique to their planet.
Yeah. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope it's got your mind thinking about it. Is it a question that you kind of want to research more? Because we've only touched on a few of the sightings, really. We touched on the major one that people mainly know and has been used in several different films. As I said, it's used in the Thor film about the hammer that lands and no one's able to move it, so they turn it into a big government thing, which was the Roswell incident. There's the incident of the plane that went missing, but the sound from the black box is found where they say that it's not human, which is a little bit scary, a bit terrifying, knowing that it was, so close.
Was that Malaysia flight from like 2014? Is that the flight you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the one that went missing. Well, it went missing over, like, it was the Thailand area. I've said Thailand, but it's around that area that it went missing.
Cool, yeah.
But yeah, it'd be great if you guys want to go out there and make some more research into it, and if you want to come back and let us know what you found, it'd be absolutely amazing. I'm going to play a quick video before we do leave that's going to show you the roundup of the live shows here on the Buzz and where and what time you can check them out. So there you go.
Where's the competition? Bring on the competition. We need some competition. Y'all ain't no competition. It's time to ball. Yeah, y'all, it's time to brawl. Cause see, we about to stomp y'all from the jump fall. Me worry not at all. Your team is gonna fall. Hope you learn something from it, cause we schooling all of y'all. Putting you to shame. Don't hate you even came. Bringing the pain to anybody coming through the lane. Simple and plain, we gon' play it like we playing dames. Ain't got a chance, even if we give away the game. So hope you brought your best. Go put your skills to the test. An early off season, about to lay your team to rest. Chalk is another loss. That's what it's gonna cost. Go with your instincts. If
Man, those videos jack you up, don't they?
You get right pumped for the end of the show.
Before we go, ask you, Alex. Have you ever seen a UFO? Do you have any any personal UFO stories?
I've never. We go camping, me and my mates, once a year. Every year we go August time. We go up to North Yorkshire, which is about an hour away from here. Where the city where we are at the moment, you can't really see the stars anymore. It's too polluted. You only get a few flickers. Whereas when you go up there, the skies are so clear. It's so nice to be able to just sit and like look up and be able to see the stars, because you don't really get to see that with everything that, well, what man's created. Sure. So I've seen tons of things when I've been sat looking up there and seeing something move and be like, start shooting. Like, everyone's instinct is to go, oh God, look, a shooting star. Oh, a shooting star. But you're never 100% sure.
Sure. Yep, absolutely. If I've never seen a UFO. I've seen shooting stars, and the shooting stars, you can, the ones I've seen, they kind of burn up. But yeah, I've never seen a UFO. I really want to, though. If you're out there camping, that's when most people see UFOs. Actually, is like camping and stuff like that.
Yeah, when they're out in the wild, because, well, if you think about it, they're going to travel to the least populated places to try and avoid being seen. So sure. If you're out in the sticks in the middle of nowhere, just keep your eye on the sky.
Yep, absolutely. That's always a good idea.
So thank you guys for joining us for this episode, whether you're listening to this live or whether you're listening to this afterwards. Make sure that you go and follow The Buzz at WTBdotcom on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and our YouTube at The Buzz. Make sure you go follow Ben at Activities on Twitter. He runs a podcast called Paranormal Activities, where he talks everything about ghosts, ghost hunting, saging your house, anything to do with ghosts, any ghost stories. He's had tons of guests on there. It's a fantastic listen. Might not have recorded them for a while, but
you've been a guest on it. You've been on it.
Yeah, and it's a whale of a time, and it's great to be able to speak about these things, because they're like they're the strange stories that you wouldn't have normally sat face to face. Like if you went to a bar and started talking about paranormal hunting, your mates are probably going to get up and leave.
Sure, it does. Correctly, your story was really interesting. Like, you grew up in a really interesting house. So I really liked your episode.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things of you don't think about your story really until you start telling somebody about it, and you go, "Oh yeah, that is a bit strange." Oh, that it does come across a bit weird, does that?
Absolutely. Like, I love your story, because you definitely lived in a haunted house.
Yeah, it's an amazing show. Make sure you go check out Paranormal Activities. You can also find Ben as Chuck Winchester on RSH. That's on Thursdays. That was on the live show thing as well. And you can check back with me tomorrow for Stand Your Ground, which is our football podcast. We'll be talking everything from the English Premier League during the international break at the moment, but we have missed 2 weeks of stuff, so we've got a lot to catch up on. So make sure you're here for that. 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT time for Stand Your Ground. But that'll do us. So Ben, thank you so much for coming on this episode. It's been a fantastic way to start your Saturday and probably end my Saturday.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for having me. I had a blast. Again, I could talk about aliens all day, so I appreciate you having me on, man.
And maybe we might have to do a follow-up episode if we do get a lot of contact from people.
I think so. I think that'd be fun. Absolutely.
Well, I say contact from people, maybe contact from aliens.
And there you go. See, that's the Men in Black. The Men in Black are real too. Right? There's a whole thing about the Men in Black who go and investigate alien contact. And if you do see an alien, you'll get knock at your door from some dude in black. So that's a whole different topic altogether. But
and yeah, we know if you go missing now that we need to go to what is it, Army Base A?
Yeah, Area A. Yep, yes, sir. That's where they're at. That's my guess. If I was a betting man, that's where they're at. Area A, right, Pat?
And stick around right now, because in the next 5 minutes Working Fans Podcast is about to go live as well, so make sure that you check them out and show them some love as well. But that'll do us for this episode of Hysteria Hour. We will be back at some point, hopefully not as long as a break of what we had from the last episode, with another conspiracy. If there is a conspiracy theory that you want us to depict and go over, please send us a message or comment on this video which one you want us to look into, and we'll probably do an episode on that.
Hell yeah, can't wait to watch it.
Right, guys, that'll do us. So make sure that you follow and subscribe to The Buzz, and make sure that you follow Ben, and we'll see you in very, very soon.